After the Note 7 fiasco, which may have cost Samsung up to $17 billion in revenue and $30 billion in recall costs, stock loss, and damage to the Samsung brand, the Korean electronics giant is looking for a hit to revive its smartphone line. According to insiders, Samsung is looking to throw every technological innovation possible into the Galaxy S8 in order to entice some of its lost users. But there might be a surprising roadblock to this effort. Google. Samsung recently acquired Viv. It's a virtual digital assistant and is expected to integrate into their S8. But Samsung has a non-compete pact with Google as part of their patent sharing agreement. And rumors are circulating that Google has already asked Samsung not to include a feature that would directly compete with the enhanced Google Now Assistant. This is a story worth watching because it involves the largest single manufacturer of Android phones and their ambition to be the premier smartphone company against Google, which is trying to keep Android from fragmenting even further. Now, interesting story here because the whole thing about Android is Google said, we're going to make this, we're going to set it free, and then we're going to watch what the manufacturers do. We want them to come up with the innovation after we've given them the foundation. They're now approaching that point at which they have to stop. They have to start saying, you got to bring that back. You can't do that. I mean, if you have an assistant that lives on top of our assistant, you're now fragmenting this line so much that it makes it impossible for us to call this one Android brand. But I also see it from the other side. Google's saying, look, we're competing against Apple here, and we really need a hit. After that fiasco, after all the money that we lost, after all that lost revenue, if we've got an amazing piece of technology, you can't tell us not to show it off. How would you feel if, I don't know, let's say 10 years down the line, Apple starts allowing clones of the iPhone like they did with the original Mac, and then they tell their manufacturers, yeah, you can do this, but you can't put your most innovative technology into the product.
Yeah, I think this is, I mean, I would take a step back to just the fact that Viv sold to Samsung, which was so surprising to me. Right? I don't know if it was something that you expected, but here was, this assistant that was supposed to be miles better than Siri or anything that was out there, just really, what Siri should have been. Right. And then it's like, oh, well, they sold to Samsung. That's interesting. And it feels like Samsung should have known that they were going to run into this sort of block. But like you said, I mean, Google and Android has been different than Apple in that they have sort of let a lot of people in, a lot of different things in. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, because I do love Google or Google Now, I guess. I don't know what they call it now. Yeah. I don't know what they call it.
The thing you talk to that you look like a crazy person with.
And I would absolutely use it on my iPhone. I would love to use it on my iPhone. And it is available on the iPhone, but not through the home button. You have to do one click. And that has proven to be too difficult for me to get past.
See, we've actually got an analog in the Android world because I have Cortana and Google Now on my phone. And I can call for either. They're both listening at any given time. Mm-hmm. I don't like that. I always turn off one or the other. I know everyone there's always something that one digital assistant does really well that the other digital assistants don't. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting to that point where I just want a assistant. I don't care which one it is. I just want it to work, and I want it to work well. But, and this is the big deal, I want it to work the same way on all the phones I have. This is one of the things that I like about Android. It's not iPhone in that it's crazy controlled, but theoretically, if I buy a flagship from one manufacturer and a flagship from another manufacturer, aside from the funky skins that Samsung and LG are known for, the underlying technology is the same. What Samsung wants to do is they want to make it function differently. And I'm not a big fan of that because you end up doing the thing that drove me away from the iPhone, which is I'm now stuck with Samsung. If I want to keep using my phone the way I use it, I can only buy from Samsung. And as an Android user, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what makes me mad about the assistants is when they're not working and it's a brand thing, right? Like I use the Amazon Echo in my house and I will ask it to play my Audible book, open Audible. It's so easy. It knows exactly where I am. I have them in different rooms so I can continue listening in the other room. And then, I was in the car and I just asked Siri, like, open Audible and play my audiobook. And just that back, like, I don't understand what you're saying. It's like, how much easier could that be? And the reason, I don't know if it's Apple's side or Amazon's side, but the reason it works seamlessly on my Echo is because Audible is owned by Amazon. And I feel like the reason it doesn't work on Siri is because Amazon and Apple are competitors. And that's so frustrating to me.
Okay, I'm going to get back to the real news in a bit, but I need an iOS expert here. Okay. Is there a problem with Siri inadvertently triggering every once in a while? Because I've had that happen to us a lot. In fact, last month I was at vows. So we had it's a religious thing, and there's a solemn profession of vows. So the individual, he's kneeling before the Eucharist, and he has a formula that he has to say, and it's dead quiet. You know, you've got 1,000 people in a church, and there's nothing heard except for the man who's doing his vows. And he got to the end of his vows, and then you heard, blump. I didn't understand what you were saying, and it was so loud, and the person who had it happen was embarrassed, but I talked to her later on, and she's like, I didn't touch a button. Siri just decided to speak up. Is that a thing?
Well, I don't know. I mean, was she sitting on her phone or something? Was it like
it was in her purse.
A butt Siri? Dial Siri?
Is there a butt Siri now?
No.
I didn't know about that.
It was, I mean, someone might have said something that sounded like, hey, Siri, I guess.
We were looking through the vowel formula, like, do any of these words sound like Siri? And not really.
Yeah. Well, I've said this before, that when I cough, my wake word on my Amazon Echo is echo. And when I go, it sometimes sounds like it. So I've certainly had it on. You've talked about how your Amazon Echo just would turn on in the middle of the night for no reason and start talking to you.
The most recent update did fix that. But yeah, that wasn't just annoying. I mean, that was, for a while, that was kind of scary.
Yeah.
Because you wake up in the middle of the night and your mind's already kind of jumbled. And I'm thinking, I just heard a voice. Where did the voice come from? And then I find out it's the Echo. And, you know, that first thing that happens is you just pull it out of the wall. You're like, you're done.
Well, and we had a viewer who wrote to us, Trenton Moody, who said that anytime it keeps going off when he's watching TV. His Google Home keeps going off when he's watching TV. And he sent me a video, and it's when people are saying, okay, just okay, something else, just okay.
Right.
So hopefully I didn't just trigger all of your home, Google Home.
I know. I have received very passionate tweets from people who asked me to stop saying the trigger words for certain assistants, especially the Amazon one, which I'm tempted to do right now, but I won't.
Don't do it.
All right, but back to the story. So we're talking about this Note 7 fiasco. Samsung is really trying to hit it out of the park with the 8 because obviously they lost a lot of cred. I mean, it was the first time that they had negative profit in their smartphone category. And obviously because when you're talking about $30 to $50 billion, that's going to leave a ding in your pocket. But if you were a Samsung user and you were a loyal Samsung user up to now, would you come back for all the bells and whistles? Because right now, the way that it's polling, the Samsung users who have walked away, something like 70% of them said they will never buy another Samsung product. Do you think it's enough of a ding to permanently damage that brand?
I don't know. I mean, I think so, yes, because I think that there's so many different Android phones that, I mean, if you were, I don't know what about the Samsung phone would keep people necessarily. I mean, but everybody loved that phone. You know, and maybe it was just because no one had it long enough to be able to find something wrong with it.
But I mean, the people who loved it, they loved it. I saw it at IFA, and I wanted to get it.
Yeah.
Even though the announcement about the recall happened while I was at IFA, I kept thinking, okay, when they get the non-recalled version, I'm getting one of these. It is a beautiful piece of hardware. The screen was beautiful. The features are beautiful. I love the fact that it was waterproof. Yeah, it had a little problem with blowing up, but I mean, other than that, it was pretty damn good.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I do think that there will be a loyal group of people, and I don't know whether having the Viv assistant on it or not will.
Yeah, that's the other question. Do you really, would you be swayed by another assistant, even if it was an incredible assistant?
Maybe.
Would the perfect assistant lure you away from iOS?
We should ask that of you. We should ask a question of the day. Would the perfect assistant lure you away from whatever phone you're using now? And are you going to buy the S8? Or have you been, because I know I've heard from some people who say that you know, I'm done. I sent it back. I got another one. So yeah, email us at tnt@twit.tv and we'll compile your answers and see, because I'm not a good judge, because you know my job is iOS.